When scavengers found more than scrap. The stars in the void belt held no warmth. Captain Zaraketh pressed her scaled face against the viewport of her salvage ship, watching the endless field of space debris drift past like metal ghosts. Her yellow eyes gleamed with the hunger that had kept her alive for 30 years of scavenging in the galaxy's forgotten corners. "Captain, sensors are picking up something big," called Nyx from the pilot's seat. The young Vril's insect-like compound eyes reflected the dim light of the control screens. His thin antennae twitched with excitement. Zaraketh's tail swished behind her as she moved to the scanner display. What she saw made her heart race. The signature was massive, easily 10 times larger than their ship, the Bone Picker, but it showed no power readings, no life signs, no movement. "Grox, what do you make of this?" she called to her engineer. The Tetheri male looked up from his workstation, all 4 arms moving in different directions as he analyzed the data. His orange skin glowed slightly in concentration. "It's old, Captain. Very old. The metal composition matches records from the human Exodus period." Zaraketh felt a chill run down her spine. Humans had vanished from the galaxy 150 years ago. One day they were there, building, trading, exploring. The next day, their colonies were empty, their ships gone. Most believed they had fled to unknown regions of space, but no one had seen them since. "A human derelict," she whispered. "Do you know what this could be worth?" Human technology was legendary throughout the galaxy. Their ships, their computers, their weapons, all of it commanded incredible prices on the black market. A single human data core could buy a new ship. A working human attic could make her richer than most planetary governors. "Nyx, bring us closer." Slowly, the Bone Picker drifted toward the massive shape floating in the darkness. As they approached, their lights revealed the true scope of their discovery. The vessel was enormous, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was dark gray, covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift in the light. "By the Ancient Ones," Grox breathed, his 4 arms falling still. "It's beautiful." The ship was unlike anything in the current galactic fleet. Where modern vessels were built for efficiency, this one seemed crafted for endurance. Its armor looked thick enough to stop a meteor strike, and weapon ports dotted its hull like sleeping eyes. "Can you read any markings?" Zaraketh asked. Nyx enhanced the display, zooming in on the ship's bow. Faded letters appeared. USSC ETRNL DOTATSH. United Sol Systems Command. Grox translated. "That was humanity's deep space navy. This isn't just any ship, Captain. This is a warship." Zaraketh's mind raced with possibilities. Human warships were myths to most salvagers. Stories told that they were filled with impossible technologies, powered by AIs that could think faster than any living being. If even half the stories were true, this one ship could set her up for life. "Any signs of life?" she asked. "Negative," Nyx reported. "No power readings, no heat signatures, no communication signals. It's been dead in space for decades, maybe longer." Zaraketh made her decision. "Prep the boarding gear. We're going inside." An hour later, they had docked with the human ship through an emergency airlock. The Bone Picker looked like a tiny insect next to the massive vessel. As the airlock cycled, Zaraketh checked her equipment one more time. Her breathing mask, her cutting tools, her portable scanner. Everything she needed to strip valuable components quickly. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, revealing the corridor that stretched into darkness. Their lights pierced the gloom, showing walls lined with strange symbols and panels that had gone dark long ago. "Stay close," Zaraketh ordered. Human ships were built like mazes. It's easy to get lost. They moved through the corridors in single file. The ship felt different from other derelicts they had explored. Most dead vessels felt empty, hollow. This one felt like it was waiting for something. Grox ran his scanner over the walls as they walked. The power systems are completely offline, but the infrastructure is intact. These conduits could carry 10 times the energy of our best ships. They found the first chamber after 20 minutes of walking. It was enormous, filled with rows of cylindrical pods arranged in perfect formation. Each pod was made of a clear material, large enough to hold a human-sized figure. "Stasis pods," Nyx whispered. "There must be hundreds of them." Zaraketh approached the nearest pod, her light revealing its contents. Empty. The next one was also empty. Row after row of vacant pods stretched into the darkness. "They evacuated," she said. The whole crew abandoned ship. But Grox had found something different. At the far end of the chamber, one pod glowed with a faint blue light. "Captain, over here. This one is still active." They gathered around the glowing pod. Inside, suspended in some kind of preservation fluid, was a human. She was young, maybe 30 by human standards, with dark hair and peaceful features. Her body was perfectly preserved, as if she had only been sleeping for minutes instead of decades. "Is she alive?" Nyx asked. Grox's scanner chirped as he took readings. Minimal life signs, but they're there. Heart rate of maybe 2 beats per minute. Brain activity is strange. It's like she's dreaming, but the patterns are too complex for normal sleep. Zaraketh studied the pod's control panel. The symbols were in human script, but she had learned to read basic human tech over the years. "I think I can wake her up." "Captain, is that wise?" Grox asked. "We don't know anything about her. She could be dangerous, or she could be valuable." Zaraketh replied. "A living human. The collectors would pay a fortune." Before anyone could object, she pressed the emergency release sequence. The pod began to drain, and the blue light grew brighter. Inside, the human woman's eyes fluttered open. Commander Sarah Chen had been dreaming of Earth. In her dreams, she walked through the parks of New Geneva, feeling real sunlight on her face and breathing air that hadn't been recycled 1,000 times. The dream always ended the same way, with the flash of alien weapons and the screams of her crew. Now she was awake, and 3 alien faces were staring down at her. Her training kicked in immediately. She assessed the situation in seconds: reptilian female, insectoid male, and a 4-armed humanoid she didn't recognize. They wore salvage gear, not military equipment. Their body language suggested curiosity rather than hostility. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice hoarse from decades of disuse. The reptilian spoke first, in accented but understandable standard. "You're aboard your ship, human. The Eternal Watch. I am Captain Zaraketh. These are my crew, Grox and Nyx." Sarah tried to sit up, and her head spun. Memories flooded back. The mission, the battle, the choice she had made. "How long?" "Your ship has been drifting in the void belt for at least 150 years, Zaraketh said. "We found it during a salvage run." 150 years. Sarah closed her eyes, processing this information. The galaxy would have changed completely. Her people, her civilization, everything she had known was gone. "What happened to the humans?" she asked quietly. "They left," Nyx said, his antennae drooping with what might have been sympathy. "All of them, all at once. No one knows where they went." Sarah almost smiled at that. They didn't know. The plan had worked perfectly. "I need to get to the bridge," she said, standing on unsteady legs. "Why?" Zaraketh asked suspiciously. "Because," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger, "I need to check on my ship." As they walked through the corridors, Sarah's presence seemed to change the vessel around them. Lights flickered on in their path, and the air grew warmer. Consoles that had been dark for decades began glowing with soft amber light. "How is this happening?" Grox asked, all 4 arms gesturing at the awakening systems. "The ship recognizes me," Sarah explained. "I'm not just the commander. I'm part of it." They reached the bridge to find it coming alive around them. Screens activated, displaying star charts and system readouts. The command chair in the center began to glow with the same blue light as the stasis pod. Sarah walked to the chair and placed her hand on its surface. Immediately, the bridge exploded with light and sound as every system came online. "Welcome back, Commander Chen," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was deep, artificial, but somehow warm. "I have been waiting." "Hello, Eternal," Sarah said to the ship's eye. "Status report. All systems optimal. Crew complement. 1. Mission status. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 ready to commence." Zaraketh and her crew stared in amazement as holographic displays showed the ship's incredible systems. Weapons that could crack planets, shields that could stop stars, engines that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. "This is impossible," Grox whispered. "No one has technology like this." Sarah turned to face them, and for the first time, they saw her smile. "The humans didn't run away," she said. "We prepared." The ship's sensors were reaching out now, scanning deep space with technology far beyond what the current galaxy possessed. One by one, signals began appearing on the display. Dozens of them, then hundreds, scattered across known space. Each signal had the same designation: USSC vessel. Guardian Protocol active. "What is the Guardian Protocol?" Zaraketh asked, though she was beginning to suspect she didn't want to know the answer. 150 years ago, humanity saw what was coming, Sarah explained. The war, the chaos, the collapse of civilization. So we made a choice. We didn't run away. We spread out. We hid. We waited. More signals appeared on the display. Every hidden fleet, every secret base, every sleeping guardian was reporting in. The galaxy hadn't seen humans in 150 years because the humans hadn't wanted to be seen. "Eternal, send the awakening signal," Sarah commanded. "Confirmed, Commander. Transmitting Guardian Protocol activation to all units." Across the galaxy, in the dark spaces between stars, ancient human vessels began to stir. Ships that had waited patiently for generations powered up their systems and activated their crews. The greatest military force in galactic history was awakening from its long sleep. "Why now?" Nix asked, his compound eyes wide with terror and wonder. Sarah looked at the three salvagers who had accidentally triggered humanity's return. "Because it's time to come home." On the display, Earth appeared, not the dead world the galaxy believed it to be, but a thriving planet hidden behind the most sophisticated cloaking technology ever created. Cities glowed like jewels in the darkness, and massive ships moved in complex patterns around orbital stations. Humanity had never left. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves again. "The question now," Sarah said to Zaraketh and her crew, "is whether the galaxy will welcome us back, or if we'll have to remind them why they should." The Eternal Watch began to move for the first time in 150 years, its engines lighting up the void belt like a new star. And across the galaxy, hundreds of its sister ships were doing the same, converging on coordinates that would reshape the balance of power forever. The age of humanity's return had begun, when Earth's children remembered their purpose. Admiral Vextorin of the Galactic Coalition had seen many impossible things in his 40-year military career. He had watched stars die, civilizations fall, and peace treaties signed in the blood of 1,000,000 soldiers. But nothing had prepared him for the reports scrolling across his command screen. "Sir," his communications officer called from across the bridge of the Coalition flagship Harmony's Edge, "we're receiving similar reports from all sectors. Unknown vessels appearing throughout the galaxy, all using the same energy signature." Vextorin's blue-scaled face remained calm, but his inner eyelids flickered with concern. The Ketharan officer's natural stoicism had served him well, but this situation was beyond anything in the military handbooks. "How many?" he asked. "Over 300 confirmed contacts, sir. All massive, all heavily armed. They're not attacking, but they're not responding to our communications either." The Admiral studied the tactical display. The unknown ships had appeared in every major system, positioned with mathematical precision around trade routes, military bases, and population centers. It was the deployment pattern of an invasion force, but one that seemed more interested in observation than conquest. Any word from the science division on their technology? His science officer, a thin Valderi with luminescent patches on her forehead, looked up from her station. The energy readings are off our scales, Admiral. Their power output suggests reactors we can't even theoretically create, and their ships are old. Some readings suggest they've been in space for over a century. Before Vextorin could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered and went dark. When they came back online, a human face was looking at them. The woman was middle-aged by human standards, with graying hair and eyes that held the weight of command. Behind her, they could see the bridge of an impossibly advanced starship, with displays showing tactical information that made their own technology look primitive. "Greetings," she said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Sol Systems Command. I am speaking to all coalition vessels, all member worlds, and all independent systems simultaneously." Vextorin leaned forward in his command chair. "This is Admiral Vextorin of the Coalition Defense Force. Identify your intentions." "Our intentions are peaceful, Admiral, but our patience is not unlimited. For 150 years, we have watched from the shadows as this galaxy tore itself apart. Wars without end, species enslaving other species, entire worlds destroyed for resources. We left not because we were weak, but because we hoped you would learn to be better." On the bridge of the Eternal Watch, Sarah Chen stood beside Captain Zaraketh and her salvage crew, who had become unwitting witnesses to history. The reptilian captain watched the displays with growing understanding of just how completely the galaxy had underestimated humanity. "You see," Sarah said to them quietly, "humanity never just did anything small. When we decided to leave, we made sure we could come back stronger." The main display showed the positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering, carrying technology developed during humanity's hidden years. But more than that, each ship represented a promise that humanity would return when the galaxy needed them most. The Coalition slave worlds in the Outer Rim think they're fighting a losing battle against their oppressors. Admiral Vasquez continued her broadcast. "The Terathi Republic believes the Vorthok Empire will overrun them within the year. The independent systems cower before pirates and warlords because they have no protection." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded fleets larger than some civilizations. "This ends now." Across the galaxy, Coalition monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures as human ships began to move, not toward population centers or military targets, but toward the dark corners where the galaxy's real problems festered. In the Kepler sector, where Vorthok slavers had terrorized trade routes for decades, 3 human destroyers materialized out of nowhere. The slaver fleet, confident in their superior numbers, opened fire immediately. Their weapons struck shields that absorbed the energy and converted it to power for the human ship's own systems. The response was swift and decisive. Precision strikes disabled the slaver vessels without destroying them, and boarding teams that moved with inhuman coordination secured the ships and freed thousands of captives. The entire operation took 17 minutes. "How did they do that?" Grox asked, watching the tactical feeds on the Eternal Watch's displays. "Enhanced humans," Sarah explained. "Not cyborgs, not androids. Humans with improved genetics, faster reflexes, stronger minds. When we went into hiding, we didn't just advance our technology. We advanced ourselves." Similar operations were happening throughout the galaxy. Pirate bases that had existed for generations were shut down in hours. Corrupt officials found their communications networks infiltrated and their crimes broadcast to their own populations. Slave camps were liberated before their guards knew they were under attack. But the most significant action was taking place in the Coalition capital system. Admiral Vextorin watched his sensors as a human fleet of unprecedented size dropped out of hyperspace just outside the system's defense perimeter. 12 massive vessels, each one larger than his flagship, arranged in a perfect formation that spoke of absolute confidence. "Admiral," came Admiral Vasquez's voice over a direct communication channel. "May I come aboard? I believe it's time we had a proper conversation." 20 minutes later, Vex Torin found himself in his own conference room, facing the human who had supposedly been extinct for 150 years. Admiral Vasquez was smaller than he had expected. Humans generally were, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. "You're afraid," she said without preamble. "Your people, the Coalition, all of them. You're afraid we've come back to conquer, haven't you?" Vex Torin asked bluntly. Vasquez smiled, and it was a surprisingly warm expression. "Admiral, if we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would have done it 150 years ago. We had the technology then. Now, after a century and a half of development while everyone else stagnated, we could own every world in known space within a month." She activated a holographic display that showed the true scope of human presence in the galaxy. Not just the ships they had revealed, but hidden bases, cloaked monitoring stations, and infiltration networks that had been gathering intelligence for decades. "We've been watching, Admiral. We know about the Coalition's corrupt senators who profit from the slave trade. We know about the Republic's secret weapons programs. We know about the Empire's plans to invade neutral space." Vex Torin's blood ran cold. If the humans knew all of that, they knew everything. "But we also know about officers like you," Vasquez continued. "People who joined the military to protect others, not to profit from war. Scientists who share their discoveries freely. Traders who deal fairly with all species. The galaxy isn't completely lost. It just needs guidance. And you're offering to provide that guidance. We're offering to provide protection. The galaxy has grown used to solving problems through violence. Wars that last decades, billions of casualties, entire species driven to extinction. We're here to show you there's a better way." She stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "Humanity learned something during our exile, Admiral. We learned that true strength isn't about having the biggest guns or the most territory. It's about knowing when to use your power and when to show restraint." Back on the Eternal Watch, Sarah was explaining the same philosophy to Zura Keth and her crew. The salvagers had become more than just witnesses. They had become representatives of how the galaxy would react to humanity's return. "Your people disappeared," Zara Keth said. "Everyone assumed you were destroyed or driven away. But you were planning this the whole time." "Not this exactly," Sarah admitted. "We hoped the galaxy would mature, learn to resolve conflicts peacefully. We kept monitoring, kept hoping. But every decade brought new wars, new atrocities. Finally, we realized that our withdrawal hadn't taught the lesson we hoped it would." Nix, the young Vril pilot, had been studying the human ship's displays with fascination. "Your technology is incredible. How far ahead of us are you really?" Sarah exchanged a glance with the ship's eye avatar, which had taken the form of a middle-aged human male with kind eyes. "Eternal. Show them the comparison data." The displays lit up with a comprehensive analysis of galactic technology levels. The results were staggering. Human ships were at least 50 years ahead in every field: propulsion, weapons, shields, computers, life support. But more importantly, they had achieved something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten was possible: sustainability. "Your civilizations burn through resources like there's no tomorrow," Sarah explained. "Humanity learned to build things that last. Our ships can operate for centuries without major repairs. Our cities produce more energy than they consume. Our technology enhances life instead of consuming it." Grox, who had been silent throughout the explanation, finally spoke. "If you're so advanced, why reveal yourselves now? What changed?" Sarah's expression grew serious. "Because sensors detected something heading toward this galaxy. Something that makes all our wars and conflicts look like children's games. We have maybe 10 years before it arrives." The display shifted to show deep space, beyond the galactic rim. At the very edge of sensor range, something massive was moving through the void between galaxies. The energy signature was unlike anything in known space, ancient, powerful, and absolutely hostile. The Devourers, Sarah said quietly. We've encountered them before, in other galaxies. They consume everything. Matter, energy, life itself. They strip entire galaxies bare and move on to the next. The implications hit everyone at once. Every conflict, every war, every dispute in the galaxy would be meaningless if this threat was real. The galaxy needs to be united, Sarah continued, not under human rule, but under human protection. We have the technology to fight them, but only if every civilization works together. Admiral Vasquez was having the same conversation with Vex Torin, but on a much larger scale. The Coalition Admiral stared at the sensor data with growing horror. How long have you known? He asked. We first detected them 15 years ago, Vasquez replied. We've been preparing ever since. Our hidden years weren't just about technological advancement. They were about preparing for this war. And you're certain they're hostile. Vasquez activated another display, showing images of dead galaxies, worlds stripped of all matter, stars drained of energy, empty space where civilizations once thrived. This is the Andromeda Spiral, their last target. 3 billion stars, countless worlds, uncountable lives. All gone, consumed. Vex Torin felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders like never before. What do you need from us? Unity, Vasquez said simply. Every species, every government, every fleet working together. We can provide the weapons and the technology, but we can't fight this alone. Over the following days, as word of humanity's return and the approaching threats spread throughout the galaxy, something unprecedented began to happen. Ancient enemies called truces. Warring species opened diplomatic channels. The Coalition, the Republic, the Empire, and dozens of smaller powers agreed to emergency sessions. It wasn't easy. Centuries of mistrust couldn't be overcome in days, but humanity's demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority, combined with their restraint in using it, began to change minds. When slavers were captured and their victims freed, the humans turned the criminals over to proper authorities instead of executing them. When corrupt officials were exposed, they were given chances to make amends. When ancient grievances erupted into violence, human ships appeared to enforce ceasefires and mediate disputes. Slowly, the galaxy began to remember what peace looked like. On the Eternal Watch, Zaraketh and her crew had been given the choice to leave or to stay and witness history. They chose to stay. What happens now? She asked Sarah as they watched the fleet movements on the main display. Now we prepare, Sarah replied. We have 10 years to turn a galaxy of warriors into an army of defenders. 10 years to unite billions of beings who have never trusted each other. 10 years to prepare for a war that will determine whether life itself survives in this galaxy. She looked at the 3 salvagers who had accidentally triggered humanity's return. You helped wake us up. Maybe you can help wake up everyone else too. Outside the ship, space filled with vessels from every corner of the galaxy. Coalition battleships flew alongside Republic cruisers. Independent traders shared convoy routes with former enemies, and protecting them all, the silent guardians that humanity had left behind were finally coming home. The galaxy had been divided for 150 years. Now, with extinction approaching from the dark between stars, it would learn to stand united. And leading them, the species that had seemed lost forever would show them what humanity did best, not just survive, but thrive in the face of impossible odds. The real test was still coming. But for the first time in generations, the galaxy had hope.